class. Today we are going to do lesson 5.5 on dividing fractions. Our first vocabulary word for today is reciprocal. A reciprocal is two non-zero numbers whose product is 1. Really what it means is it's flipping a fraction. So for example, if you take the number 5, 5 is really the same thing as saying 5 divided by 1, because 5 divided by 1 is still the number 5. The reciprocal of 5 is literally the flip of that, so it would be 1 over 5. And the reason why this is a reciprocal is because if I were to take 5 times 1 over 5, remember with multiplying fractions, you multiply across. So we have, I'm just going to rewrite this here. So multiplying across, we have 5 times 1, which is 5, and 1 times 5, which is also 5. 5 divided by 5 is the number 1. So that's where this definition comes. But what I really want you to remember is that reciprocal really is just taking a fraction and it's flipping it. So like 2 over 7, the reciprocal of 2 over 7 is 7 over 2. The reciprocal of negative 5 over 8 is negative 8 over 5. You can even take the reciprocal of a decimal because 0.1 is really the same thing as saying 1 over 10. Well, if I were to flip that, that would be 10 over 1, which is the same thing as saying 10. All right, so example 1, state the reciprocal of the following numbers. So it helps if I write the number as a fraction first. The reciprocal of 8 over 1 is the flip, 1 over 8. All right, if we flip the next one, negative 2 over 3, that is 3 over negative 2. All right, and just a side note that I want to write about this one, 3 over negative 2 is the same thing as saying negative 3 over 2. And this is the same thing as saying negative 3 over 2. The reason why is because this is a negative number. Positive divided by negative is negative. The second one is a negative number because a negative divided by a positive is a negative. And the third one we already see is a negative number. So all three of these fractions are actually the same thing. All right, looking at letter C, 0.75, that's the same thing as the fraction 3 over 4. It's like saying 75 cents is 3 quarters. All right, so the flip of that would be 4 over 3, the reciprocal. And 2.5, all right, this is a good one here. This is like saying 2 and 1/2. But if I wanted to write this as a fraction, as an improper fraction, I have 2 times 2 plus 1 is 5. So this is really 5 over 2. The reciprocal of 5 over 2 is the flip of it, so 2 over 5. Okay, so now we get into the main part of today's lesson. How do you divide fractions? What you do is you multiply by its reciprocal. So if I have A over B divided by C over D, I leave it, change it, and turn me over. All right, so I'm even going to write that down. You leave it, change it, and you could say flip it. Leave it, change it, flip it. So let's try this. Example 2, find the quotient. You are going to leave the first fraction. So we have negative 2 over 5. You're going to change it, so change the division to a multiplication. And you are going to flip it. So change 4 over 7 to the flip, 7 over 4. Now we are exactly where we were in our last lesson 5.4 on multiplying fractions. You just multiply these numbers across. So it's like saying negative 2 times 7 is a negative 14. And 5 times 4 is 20. I should always simplify when possible. So I'm noticing that both of these numbers are even. So I can divide them by 2. That gives me the fraction negative 7 over 10, which is simplified. Okay, taking a look at letter C. We're going to leave it. We're going to change it. So division becomes multiplication. And we're going to flip it. Again, you can multiply across. So we have negative 4 times negative 11 is a positive 44. And we have 9 times 8, which is a positive 72. All right, from here, we could simplify. I know that, let's see, I know that 4 should go into both of those. 44 divided by 4 is 11. And 72 divided by 4 is 18. Now you might be wondering, is there an easier way to simplify this fraction? And there actually is. Let me rewrite this original problem right below here, and let's learn something that's kind of cool. So I'm going to rewrite this just like we had up above. Now, I notice that this 4 and this 8, both of those numbers can be divisible by 2. So as long as I do the same thing to the top as I do to the bottom, I can divide 4 by 2. And if I do that, 4 divided by 2 is 2. Oh, you know what? Actually, I just noticed both of those numbers are divisible by 4. My mistake. So let's just do that right away. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. So I'm going to write off to the side here, we're dividing by 4. And 8 divided by 4 is the number 2. Okay, now I'm looking at all the numbers here. I've got 1 is already simplified, 11. Can any of the numbers on the bottom be divided by 11? Nope. So I can just go ahead and multiply across. We have negative 1 times negative 11 is just 11. And 9 times 2 is 18. So that is one other method that you can use to simplify. Notice that you get the same answer. So either of those two ways works. Okay, why don't I show you that one more time here. I will jump back up to letter B, and then I'll have you guys try letter D on your own. So let's look at letter B. We're going to follow this phrase here. Leave it, change it, flip it. So leave it, change the division to multiplication, and flip it. This becomes 3 over 2. Now, using that same strategy that I just used in letter C, I'm going to look and see, okay, I've got a 7 on top. Can I divide that by anything in common with what's on the bottom? No. I have a 3 on top, and I'm noticing that 3 and 12 can both be divisible by 3. So if I were to divide by 3, 3 divided by 3 is now the number 1, and 12 divided by 3 is now the number 4. Okay, this helps me out. This makes it way simpler. Now I have on the top, I have 7 times 1, which is 7, and 4 times 2, which is 8. So I should get the answer 7 over 8. That is a nice shortcut. Right, like I said, I would like you to try letter D and check your answer with what is on the teacher's notes. Okay, moving to the back side now of our notes. I have a note on here that says, to divide mixed numbers, you must first write the mixed number as an improper fraction, then multiply by its reciprocal. So really this is very similar to what we've done in the past, where we want to write this mixed number as an improper. So we take 4 times 6, which is 24, and then we add the 1. So we have 25. I honestly am just going to immediately write this as it originally shows. So I'm going to include the division sign there, and then I'm going to rewrite this as an improper. So I know it's a negative. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. So I get 5 over 3. Okay, now I can use that phrase leave it, change it, flip it. So leave it, change it, and flip it. Okay, I'm going to continue to use that method with simplifying. If you don't like to do that and want to just simplify your answer at the end, that's okay too. But I'm going to go ahead and do that. I see that, yes, I can divide this by 3 and I can divide this by 3. So if I divide 3 divided by 3, it's 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Okay, and then also 5 and 25 can both be divisible by 5. So 25 divided by 5 is 5, and 5 divided by 5 is 1. Now I'm going to multiply across. 5 times negative 1 is negative 5, and 2 times 1 is 2. Now this is an improper fraction, so let's write it as a mixed number. How many 2's fit into 5? 2 of them. And if I were to use a calculator, negative 5 divided by 2, I would get negative 2.5. Okay, so, whoops. So that's why we have a 2 right there. All right, and then how many 2's are left over? Well, 2 times 2 times 2 is 4. So how do you go from 4 to 5? There's 1 left over. So this should be a negative. I don't want to forget that. Negative 2 1/2. All right, let's take a look at letter B. We are going to rewrite this 9 1/6 as an improper. So 9 times 6 is 54, plus 1 is 55. So this is really 55 over 6. Okay, now I can leave it, change it, and flip it. Okay, here we have an 8 and a 6. I know that both of those are divisible by 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. Okay, now we have 3 times 3 on the top is 9, and 4 times 55. I'm going to use a calculator for that. That's totally fine. And that is the number 220. Okay, and actually that is as simplified as you can make it. So we are done there. I'm going to leave C and D for you to do on your own. I'm also going to leave F for you to do on your own. And then, of course, check your work with the teacher's notes. So let's take a look at letter E. We have negative 5 divided by 2/3. I want to first write negative 5 as a fraction. So negative 5 over 1 is the same thing, because negative 5 divided by 1 is still negative 5. So let's leave it, change it, and flip it. I do not see anything that you can simplify initially there, so let's just multiply across. Negative 5 times 3 is a negative 15, and 1 times 2 is 2. All right, if I want to see how many 2's fit into 15, I can do negative 15 divided by 2, which is negative 7.5 if you use a calculator there. So we know that that is going to be negative 7 and a certain number of 2's left over. If I think about 7 times 2, that's the number 14. So how do you go from 14 to 15? 1 is left over. So negative 7 1/2. Another way that you can think about that is that negative 7.5, we should know that 0.5 is the same thing here. 0.5 is the same as 1/2. So that's where we can get the negative 7 1/2 quickly. Okay, that is all I have for us today. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.